The Terps can still make it to a bowl game.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day, and also doing work at InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys go to InsideBlackandGold.net for all your latest Terps news. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, or if you just place the first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. I think that the Maryland Terrapins can still figure out a way to get to a bowl game. Am I saying it's likely? Am I saying that it's something that's probably going to happen? No. But I do think there is definitely a pathway for Maryland to get to a bowl game. And I do think they have a real opportunity to be able to do this. I've talked about it on a lot of episodes, but I want to make it a formal segment. We need 2 more wins. Now, that's not easy to get with the last 4 games of our schedule. We still haven't played the 2 best teams on our schedule yet. But if we can find a way to just beat Rutgers and to just beat Iowa, Maryland football is in a bowl game. And it's a lot easier said than done, but I do think that the Terps can do it. And a lot of people might call me crazy because we have looked good in 1 week in the past 4 weeks. We've looked good against USC. That's about it. Minnesota, we obviously just got crushed 48-23 on the road. Northwestern at home on a Friday night, 37-10. Indiana, 42-28. But I still believe that Maryland can figure out a way to make a bowl game. Now, it's not going to be easy. I already ruled out the Oregon and the Penn State game. We're not winning those 2 games. But I think that a team like Rutgers and a team like Iowa, I think it's 2 teams that we absolutely have the opportunity to trip up. I think when I talk about Rutgers football, first of all, definitely a game we can win. First, and we also get Rutgers at home. Another point that I think is important when talking about can we make a bowl game if we win those 2 games. We get Rutgers at home, which I think makes it a lot easier to win that type of game, because if we got Rutgers on the road, I would feel less confident. I don't know what exactly the line will be in that game, but this Rutgers team hasn't been good. I think there was some hype going into the season. Everybody thought they could be better. They were ranked. I remember they were ranked ahead of us in the preseason poll of the Big Ten preseason poll. But I was like, no way they should be ahead of us. But maybe they should still be ahead of us. But still, like, they haven't looked better than us. They're having a lot of trouble winning in the Big Ten. And I think Rutgers is a game we absolutely should be able to win. They got whacked by USC a couple weeks ago, 42-20, or actually it was just last Friday. And then UCLA, they lost to. UCLA is one of the worst teams in the conference, not a team that you want to lose to in this conference. And UCLA, that's their only Big Ten win currently. Wisconsin, they got smacked 42-7. They lost to Nebraska 7-14. They lost to Washington 18-21. So they haven't had a lot of success in recent weeks. And so I think Rutgers is absolutely a game that we could win at home. I think we might be favored in that game. We'll see, but I don't see a reason that we can't win that game. And I know what you're saying. We have all these problems. We have quarterback problems. We have offensive line problems. We have defensive problems, secondary problems. We have problems all over our football field. But that's kind of what college football is when it comes down to it. Rutgers, I promise you, has a ton of holes as well, a ton of places they would like to get better at, a ton of places where they're not that good. You wouldn't be losing 42-7 to Wisconsin if you didn't have holes. You wouldn't be losing to this UCLA team if you didn't have holes. It looks like their defense hasn't looked good at all. It looks like their quarterback hasn't looked great. They haven't been able to score a ton of points. So I do think that Rutgers is a game where if we win against Rutgers, we could really put ourselves in position to push for a bowl game. And then it just comes down to one more week against Iowa. Now, Iowa's a different animal than Rutgers. It's a different type of football team. It's a better football team. It's a team that's won games, a lot of games in the Big Ten over the last couple of years, and they've won games this year in the Big Ten. And it's a team that's definitely a tough team to beat. They always seem to play really good defense, and they never seem to have the best offense. But this year, it's been a little bit better. And when I look at their scores, I say Iowa has crushed some teams that we have lost to. They have beat Northwestern 40-14, and they beat Minnesota 31-14, which I think that obviously is something that you have to take into account when you say something like this. But I also think none of this stuff is linear. It's never like, oh, they lost to them, so they're going to lose to them. It's never like that. They lost to Michigan State a couple weeks ago, 20-32. They couldn't score against Ohio State, really. They did crush Washington. It's a good football team this year when I look at their scores. It's a really solid team. They lost to Iowa State early on in the season, only 20-19. Iowa State's now the number 11 team in the country. But I do believe that we have a chance to beat Iowa. I think that if we can beat USC at home, we can beat Iowa at home. I do believe that. I do think it's a game where we're going to have to find a way to make it close. We're going to have to find a way to get different things done, how to get points on the board, because it's never a defense that's easy to score on. We also have to make sure that we're not giving up humongous plays and all those different things that come with beating a team like Iowa. But I do think that we must be able to beat a team like Iowa. I do. And I know we've been bad this season. I know we've looked bad. But all you have to do is win 2 games against Rutgers and Iowa. Nobody in here can tell me that's not possible or that there's a solid chance that that happens, especially because we get both games at home. Now, if you only win one, you're probably not making it because Oregon and Penn State, I've already ruled those games out. We're not beating those 2 guys. But I do think that we could have the opportunity to beat Iowa or also have the opportunity to beat Rutgers. You got to go 2-0 in that stretch. And I wanted it to be that we beat Minnesota, so we only had to go 1-1 in that stretch. I think we'd have a really good opportunity to do that. But 2-0 in that stretch, crazier things have for sure happened. Let's talk a little basketball season. Let's just preview some of the biggest storylines. We're almost to the season. Season starts next week if you guys didn't realize that. But let's talk about some of the biggest storylines headed into the basketball season. I'll tell you about that after this ad from Roy. Hey, Locked On for Terps fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to a specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you can receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I am supporting MJ Morris. I just pitched in 100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even 10 makes a difference. Let's show MJ Morris the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, play today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Please don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter a referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Voids were prohibited. Download Roy and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check out Instagram, Facebook, and X. Roy_return on you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. Let's talk about some of the big storylines headed into basketball season because I do think that there are some that I want to just touch on for a little bit. I think there are some that are important. I think the one of the big coming out of Maryland basketball that could turn into a national thing depending on how well he plays is Derek Queen, the freshman. He's probably the biggest storyline headed into this year. I think in terms of him being a 5-star, him being like a top 10 player in that class, and in that 2024 class, and him having NBA potentials. He's in a lot of mock drafts going in the first round and those different things. And that gets you a lot of national attention. And I think when you look at Derek Queen, I think him coming in this year is definitely something that I look at that is going to be a big deal for a lot of Terps fans. It's going to be a big deal for a lot of Big Ten basketball fans and college basketball fans in general want to follow this kid's career path because he's one of the more intriguing players in that class because what he does while not being a freakish type of athlete is definitely something to keep an eye out. And all we've heard is good things about how he's dominating basically in the scrimmages that they have in practice. And I'm telling you, I think he's our biggest storyline headed into the year is freshman Derek Queen. I do think that he's our best player. I think that he's our best player already. Maybe Julian Reese has something to say about that. Maybe Jacoby Gillespie, maybe Miguel. I don't know, but I think that he's our best player. He definitely has the highest upside on our team, and I think what he's going to be able to do for Maryland basketball this year is going to be special for the Terps, and I want to see what he's going to be able to do, and I think it's going to be exciting for I think it's going to be an exciting time for Derek Queen and his possibilities. So I think that is the number one storyline going into the year. That's the thing that we're all going to be watching. How does Queen play? After some of the freshmen disappointed last year too, I think that we're ready for a freshman to really take off right away. And I think I'm almost guaranteeing that he looks good right away. I think the next big storyline is the 3 transfer guards. I think when I look at it, Miguel, Rodney, and Gillespie, I think all those guys are big storylines because I think it's like, I think we expect Jacoby Gillespie to emerge. I think Celta Miguel is expected to start. But I also think Rodney Rice has a lot of upside and a really high scoring ability. So I think that's also something. And I think we're going to be looking at out of these transfer guards, who really do we believe is going to be the guy that we need? And do we have all those 3 guys players for us? Is it 2? Is it 1? How well did Kevin Willard use the portal this year? Because I think last year it was kind of with the portal use. And I think this year has a chance to be a lot better with those 3 guards. And I think they all have the chance to play a lot. I think they all have a really high ceiling in terms of scoring the basketball. So I think that's another storyline that we're going to be looking at for Maryland basketball. How do the guards look? Are they in the right spots? Can they shoot the ball? I think that's another storyline you got to say. Can Maryland basketball shoot the ball better this year? Because we saw what happened last year. Really poor shooting performance. It was abysmal. That we can talk about that too. How do we shoot the ball this year? Can we shoot the ball better than we did last year? Last year was embarrassing. Kevin Willard didn't even know what to say. He would just be like, I don't know. We got to be able to shoot the ball better. Deshaun Harris-Smith couldn't shoot the ball well like that. Nobody could shoot the ball well besides Jameer Young. And I think that's another storyline. How do we go with life without Jameer Young with a much more balanced team? Are we able to do some of the same things? I think that's something else. And I think one of the bigger ones I haven't talked about is Kevin Willard. If Kevin Willard doesn't get this team going in the right direction this year, I think a lot of people are going to be saying he might have to go. I don't know. I think he's a good coach, and I think he's going to get this thing going in the right way. But if he doesn't, that's going to be something that a lot of people talk about. So Kevin Willard better be on his game, or people are going to jump ship and be like, he's got to go. Let's talk about MJ Morris versus Billy Edwards. Should they both play against Oregon? I'll talk about that after this ad from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. because right now new customers can bet $5 and get 150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook apps gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So I talked about it yesterday, and I said MJ Moore should get the opportunity to play, and it's time for a quarterback switch, which I do kind of believe. But I also think that they both should get the opportunity to play against Oregon. I think that playing one of these guys against Oregon is a bit unfair because it's almost guaranteed that we're not going to look good against Oregon. And I don't know if that's news to anybody else, but it's definitely not news to me. I don't see a world where we look good against Oregon. I just can't see it. An Oregon team that's a little bit too talented, a little bit too deep, too many guys. Even their defense, I don't even think it's their strong suit, but I think that they have good pass rushers. They have guys that can get to Billy or MJ Morse. Whoever plays isn't going. If one guy plays, they're not probably going to look good. Could they surprise me? Yeah, but the chances are they don't look good. So is it really fair to only play one of these guys? Like if you throw Billy Edwards out there and he looks horrible against Oregon because our offensive line can't block, we can't get any separation in the receiver room, and we can't get any running game, and it's like everyone's going to eye in on Billy Edwards because it's hard to tell when all those other things aren't working, and it's like Billy Edwards looks horrible, put in MJ Morse. MJ Morse should play next week against Rutgers. I think that's unfair. Like I think that you play both of these guys, see how they both look. I think they both should get the opportunity to play. We are playing for a bowl game, but honestly, this game we're probably not going to win anyway. So I think giving both of these guys the chances to play, I think isn't a bad idea against an Oregon team, because I think that playing one guy, you're probably just going to make them look bad. So I think playing both, seeing how they both do against the Oregon defense could make sense. And I think that it's really hard for me to go the whole year without giving MJ Moore somewhat of an opportunity. If Billy Edwards was winning games and we were like, what? If we were closing in on, let's say, if we had 2 or 3 more wins, then I'd be like, yeah, we can't switch it up. But the fact that we're really struggling and we brought in this kid, MJ Morse, and he looks really good last game, and it's like, is he just never going to get the opportunity? Even though a lot of people thought going into the year he would be the starter, and a lot of people still think he has a higher ceiling than Billy Edwards, and a lot of people think he's just better than Billy Edwards. It's like, are we not going to give him a chance at all? Like, that's hard for me to kind of process and believe. So I do think that we should give MJ a chance, and I do think he should get some time, because I just believe that we can't go this whole year without playing him if we're not that good of a football team. He looked way too good last week to do that, and he might be the best case in the quarterback room. That might give us the switch that we need. That might propel us somewhere where we need to go. But I think when I look at it, with our record currently where we stand in the Big Ten, in this game against Oregon on November 9th, which I think they just announced as an afternoon game, I think you look at it and you say, give both guys an opportunity, and you really get to see who plays better against an Oregon defense instead of only playing one guy. And it's like, they're not going to look good against an Oregon defense. They're just not. So I think both guys should get the opportunity to play. And I think that that's something that should happen, and that could be something for the Terps, and something that I want to see Maryland football do, because I think playing only one guy in that game, you're just setting them up for failure, to be completely honest. And I also think if you play one guy, it's going to be Billy, but I think MJ Morse should have the opportunity. We can't go this whole year without seeing MJ Morse play once or playing a full game. That would just be unsettling to me if we're not a good team. Like, it's just like we wasted MJ Morse. We didn't even get to see him once, and we're not even winning games. It just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't make sense to me at all. But that's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.